Hello, welcome to Bald and Board Games. I'm Bald,
I'm bored.
and today we're going to teach you how to play Castles of Burgundy. Castles of Burgundy is a game that's set in the medieval theme where you each have what are called duchies. And during this game, you're going to be allocating dice to do various things on the board. You're going to be grabbing hex tiles to place on these boards, which will score you points. At the end of the game, the goal is to have the most points, and they are the winner. So how does this game play out?
So gameplay is pretty simple. Each player starts with one of these duchy boards. You get one castle on one of your 4 red tiles. You can decide where you want to place it based off your own personal strategy. You'll get a few of these little square resources, a silver, and your corresponding dice. First move of the game is always roll your dice. You'll get whatever values pop up. And then as you go to the main game board, you tie your die to the dice located across the board. So if I have a 4, I can go to the 4 section and pick either of the resources. The resources all are worth different benefits and abilities. First off here, we have livestock, which is green. That being placed down will just give you experience points. The benefit to livestock is on the tile, you have multiple pictures. So the more pictures of that livestock, whether it's cows, geese, cats and dogs, whatever it is, the more points you get. You also have buildings. Buildings can be placed down in the tan section, and each of those buildings give you additional benefits as you're playing that round. The cool thing about this game, it gives you a nice little player aid here, where you can actually go through and identify everything as you're playing.
You will need it.
You'll definitely need it. I think we've played this probably about 6 times, and we still don't have this memorized.
Oh yeah, I don't think we've seen every single monastery come out.
That is true. You have blue ships. The ship benefit is it allows you to build your stacks of resources in the corner, as well as it allows you to go through and advance the round marker. So here on the main game board, we have a round marker. As your tile moves up, that dictates who goes first, which can be a very big benefit. As you can see, there's only one red tile, one grayish black tile on the board, and those will go fast. So you want to be the first one going to be able to snag those first.
How do the ships help you build up your supplies?
Perfect example. As you can see here, if we played round 1 out, these tiles match the dice of the white die. And as you place a ship down, not only do you move up the round tracker, you get to take a stack. And as long as you have space on your board, you can play those in here. As you go through the game and play more and more ships, you gain more and more. And you can either sell these for silver, which will be a big benefit, or you keep them and they're worth 1 experience point each at the end.
Yeah.
The last few things, we have yellow, which are monasteries. As Nick mentioned, we haven't seen all of these, but each of the monasteries has its own ability. You look across the card. Some of them are for endgame scoring only. Others will be played throughout the game and can help you advance your position or potentially actually stop your opponent's position in some cases. And then the final thing here in the center are the black ones. If you have 2 silver pieces, you can tell by the black border and the black background, if you have 2 silver pieces, you can purchase one of those to add to your supply. You do not actually use that as an action with your dice. So it's kind of a free turn where you can help grab extra livestock, extra buildings, whatever it may be. Oh, actually, the one thing I did miss, we do have mines over here. I mentioned it briefly. There's only one. The mine actually helps you gain silver every turn. So if you get the mines down, you gain silver. You're able to advance that count of goods. And the silver is also worth experience in the end if you don't spend it.
And then do we cover what the castles do?
Oh, sure. Castles as well. We have 4 castles that you can place across your red spots on your board. As you fill the castles, those will give you 1 extra action where you can grab any tile on the board, as well as a few of the other action-based abilities that you have. And once you gain all of the castles, you kind of have like the full setup going, where you can almost access all parts of your board depending on your duchy setup.
And getting a full combination of colors on your board will grant you extra points, which we'll cover in a minute. But let's go over an example of a round, because there is a lot going on this board.
Yes. So starting on the game board, in the top left corner, you'll have 5 stacks of 5 resources. When you start the game, after your player board is all set up, you'll have one player roll out each of those 5 resources into the corresponding little markers on the game board on the left side. And then you start player 1 will start turn 1. As I mentioned, this white die will be used for allocation. So the first resource, if it's a 6, will get played right here. Nothing happens with that yet until a ship is placed on the board. Then we go through. I would then choose, based on my 4 and my 2, what do I want to take? It goes down into your little supply corner where you have 3 available spaces. And then when I want to actually place it on the board, I would actually have to use another turn of dice to move it onto my game board. Once your dice are finished and you've allocated those resources, you move them down, and the next player would go.
And to get these onto your board, you have to have not only the correct number. So here he has a 2, so if he wanted to assign this castle, he actually couldn't do it right away because he needs that 2, plus he needs to make sure that whatever tile you're placing on the board is going adjacent to a tile that's already there. So if he had a ship down here, and we'll say this was a 1, then he could take the ship and place it here because it's next to his existing castle.
Yes, which makes strategy very important in this game because, as you can see, every one of these is different. Mine's versus Nick's, you can see the red castle marks are spread out. There are some where the castles are actually just grouped together, like a set of 4 right here. So, as you mentioned, I have my starting castle here. I can only play the squares around it. As you go through some fun advanced expansion packs and other content, there'll actually be more and more rules that actually limit you even more than that.
Yeah, so really the first part of this entire game is during setup where the strategy comes in. You'll be randomly given your Duchy board, and they're double-sided, so you have to choose which side you want to use that's going to fit your playstyle. Do you choose one that has all the castles grouped together so you can get those as quick as possible? Do you choose one that has all the mines grouped together so you can get those quick as possible to get as much silver as early on? Or do you go for the ships or the livestock or the monasteries, the buildings? It's really your choice. But what's going to be most beneficial during the game, so scoring happens throughout the game, not just at the end. There is endgame scoring, which is very important, but the scoring during the game is almost more important. So we have these numbers here that correspond to the round, of course. So right now we're on round A or round 1. So whatever round is revealed up top the most, so if we were in round 2, you would see the B, and you would go based on that one. So what this means is, if I were to complete a section here, so let's see this gray mine section. That's a 1 area, since there's no other mines touching it. Over here, this would be a 2. With that mine there, I have finished a complete section. So you reference this area here that has 1 through 8. So you find the 1, it says, okay, that's worth 1 point, and you add that to the round, 10. So I would get 11 points by finishing that 1 area. So of course, if you can finish a larger area, say this 3 area with the ships, then you would get 6 and 10, so 16. So now the further these rounds go on, you get fewer and fewer points. You can see here round 6, or round C is 6, round B is 8, and it continues to drop. But the more in a collected area on your board, the more points you get. So you see if you have a section of 8, you'll actually get 36 points plus whatever round you're on.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, you have 5 rounds, 5 turns apiece. So you kind of got to play it out where do you want to try to expand your board and just be able to access everything in round 1 and then go for completion? Or if you just happen to get the right dice roll, just be able to knock off a bunch. So right here on my board, I can actually, if I just got the good dice roll, I can get a 1, a 6, and a 5, and those 3, and I can knock off 3. That would be 33 points right there, plus the fact that you'd have some livestock, so that's a little bit more. You'd have your turn advancement, which is a big benefit, and a second castle.
Yeah, so
I've actually never had this Duchy board. This is a good setup.
That's
the one I played with in
right
our
there
game.
immediately. Oh, did you? And you lost.
Yeah. Just by a little bit.
Yeah, it was very close. That's what the fun thing about this game is you can have a huge lead in the beginning, but at the end, it could quickly disappear. So let's talk about points some more and how that happens. So in the rounds, you have your point areas here for completing sections. But if you complete a section of every single color, so let's say that I completed every single castle here. There's 4 of them. You're going to get one of these tokens at the top of the board. There's a color corresponding to each color collection on your Duchy board. And of course, the first person to get it is going to get more points. And there's 3 numbers that are on here. As you can see, there's the 5, 6, and 7. Get that there. Yep, we're good. So they correspond to how many players are playing the game. So 2, 3, or 4 players. So with 2 players playing, if I were to complete that red area, I would get 5 points. If 3 of us were playing, we'd get 6, and so on. So just because I got this doesn't mean that Steve can't. He can get another tile like this, but his are going to be worth less points. His are going to be worth the 2, 3, or 4. That's another way during the game how you can get points before endgame. One of the major ways you can get points, and one of the more strategic ways, as Steve mentioned earlier, is with the livestock. So on these green livestock tiles, there are a number of animals. You will get points for the number of animals on that token. So we have the cow. There's 3 of them here. You would get the 3 points for those cows. We're going to grab these here. I know they're pigs, but if these were also cows, there's 4. Placing that in the same pasture, so the same collection of green, is going to actually grant you 7. So you not only get the points for the tile you place down, but additionally you get the points for the ones that were already there. But that only corresponds to the same type of animal in the same pasture. If I had a different pasture down on the bottom of my board and placed them down here, I wouldn't get any additional points for the ones in the opposite pasture.
Cool thing about the pastures as well, and this accounts for a bunch of the different ones, as you look through your monasteries, which are the yellow ones, some of the different monasteries will have benefits based on what's on your game board. So one of them that I was able to achieve last time, and using Nick's board, for example, because I actually played with that board. So if you watch our playthrough video, you'll see me playing that board. There is one monastery that actually says if you have different livestock throughout your pasture, you get bonus endgame scoring.
Yep.
So that would be 4 additional experience points or victory points around the outside for each different livestock. So you have pigs, you have geese, you have horses, you have cows, and I believe there's 1 or 2 others. Deer, I think, are in there as well. Where if you get a bunch of the different ones, you can just gain a bunch of endgame scoring on top of the counts, as Nick was mentioning.
And that's how he actually caught up to me. And the geese are actually, I believe that's an expansion
wild
tile,
bonus.
but the geese are wild, like they normally are as animals. But in the game, they serve the purpose as they can count as any other animal that's in that pasture. So if you place that geese down after having multiple different animals in there, you're really going to rack up points for pretty much every other animal that's in the pasture. So Steve was able to catch me real quick with those geese. So the monasteries, now that we're talking about endgame scoring, are the main way that you have endgame scoring. The monasteries sometimes do a little bit during the game to help you get more workers or more silver when you do certain actions. But what they're really good for is that endgame scoring. There's a collection of them on my board here, down at the bottom here, which give you 4 victory points for each situation. So they're usually corresponding to specific tiles that are on your board and usually corresponding to specific buildings on your board, or the livestock like Steve mentioned, or sold goods, a variety of things here. So those monasteries are very important to get in the game for that endgame scoring. And so once the game is done, other than the monasteries, scoring comes into play with your tokens you have here for your supplies. You will get 1 point for every supply that you still have here. The ones you sold, you only score for if you have the monastery that would show you as such. You will get a point for each worker you still have working for you. And I believe you actually get a point for each silver you have as well. And you both go through, add your points up. It's going to really just shoot you around this board. And whoever has the most points at the end wins.
Yep. And you can see there's a little token here that they give you. So if you do bypass the 100 and go back to 101, you get this little thing. There's also 200. So we keep it off to the side. As soon as you hit 100, it just gets placed on your game board somewhere in open space. If you pass it again, you just flip it over. And that'll help you keep track as you're looping the board.
So it seems like there's a lot going on here. And there is, but there also isn't. At the core of this, all you're doing is rolling your 2 dice or 3 dice if you have the first player position, and you are choosing what to do with your numbers. Are you going to buy workers with your die? Are you going to purchase with your silver from the middle? Or are you going to pass? You can pass or get your tiles from the board here. That's really all you're doing the entire time, just one after another, and it goes quickly. Once you learn how to play, this really does quickly turn into a point salad game. We're just getting tons of points, and it feels great.
Yeah.
And you really don't know who's going to win. So it's a very strategic, heavy game as well, if you want it to be, or a very lighthearted, casual game if you want it to be.
Yep. And as Nick mentioned, you have 2, 3, or 4 players that can play the game. There's a whole stack of like 50 of these Duchy boards. So you're never playing the same game twice. They're both double-sided. So you have all types of unique setups. There's expansions on top. As Nick mentioned, you have the geese. There's an inn for one of them and a bunch of other things.
Some we haven't played with yet. There's a vineyard.
Yeah, we definitely have to dig into a bunch more on stream. And the cool thing, too, it's because you have this player aid, you don't really have to worry as much about trying to memorize, oh my God, what do all these tiles do in information overload? There's no time limit. You just take your time. Everything is here on both sides, and you just work your way through.
It's an easy teach for any newcomers coming in. It's a great entry into the board game sphere.
Yeah,
So,
and especially if you like history. We chose this game as one of our group because we're like, hey, things that are related or at least semi-related to real life or history. And this one definitely falls into it. So if you're enjoy history, or even if you enjoy something like Game of Thrones or whatnot, you'll see a lot of this in that. And it's, a fun little build.
Oh, man, they should make a Game of Thrones style Castles of Burgundy.
That would be
great.
Cool.
Where dragons can burn down your castle.
That would be great. That would be awesome.
I love it. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed the teach. We hope you guys check out Castles of Burgundy. The version you see on the table now is Awakened Realms newly released deluxe edition. That's why everything looks so nice. The miniature sun dropped. They are phenomenal. If you're going to get Castles of Burgundy, definitely spend the money, get this version. It's amazing, it's fun, and the replayability is super high.
Yep.
Any last words?
Check out our rest of our YouTubes. We have the actual playthrough available, so you can see us play through a full round and see what our strategies are versus yours.
All right. Well, thanks for doing Bald and Board Games. I'm Bald.
I'm Board.
Until next time.